The coaching carousel is already revolving round and around and around we go. Brian Smith, Locked On Seminoles, joining me here because Gus Malzahn is your team's new offensive coordinator. Brian, I mean, this was a shocker of all shockers because Malzahn leaves a Power 4 head coaching opportunity in the Big 12 to go be an offensive coordinator in the ACC for a guy who's been a head coach for a long time now. I didn't have this on my radar at all. Your reaction to Malzahn becoming Mike Norvell's new OC?
Well, at first I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? But then I looked at, how UCF finished the year. They were lackluster. They needed a change. And Norvell and Gus have a connection at Tulsa. And they're both Southern guys. Mike was in Dallas, but he played at a small school and blah, blah, blah. They have a lot of history and connection. People they've worked with, and they both like mobile quarterbacks. So there is some fit there. But just right after the season, like immediately after the season, like that's wild. Like I did not think it would happen in that manner. Something probably didn't go well towards the end for Gus, for him to leave like that. I'll never ask him. I've met the man several times, but that tells me that the coaching carousel is what it is, because this is how this stuff happens every year. We find out the backstory 6 months later.
Yeah, I've been a Gus Malzahn fan for a while. I thought UCF would be better this year. They were a disappointing team, not among the most disappointing teams per se in all of college football, but if you were to say, hey, Spencer, list your top 15 most disappointing teams, UCF is probably in the 12 to 15 range. Like they were the only transition Big 12 team the year prior to make a bowl game. They brought in a great transfer portal class. You had a veteran quarterback who should have meshed with Gus Malzahn really well, but KJ Jefferson was a disaster. It was a complete and total afterthought when it came to throwing the football. That's where my concern is for this hire for Malzahn to go and be the offensive coordinator for Florida State. I don't have a hugely strong feeling one way or the other, but I do have that thought of like, is this a guy that has had the game kind of pass him by? Because I don't think he's the same offensive mind he would have been viewed as maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's a weird deal because like UCF is a hard place to get the high school kids to go. They've relied half portal, half high school, maybe slightly more portal. And I think that's hindered him. The amount of talent you can get at Auburn, obviously Cam Newton kind of helped a little bit at Jarrett Stidham, at Nick Marshall, guys that fit better and more defensive talent by a mile. But yeah, like the play calling and everything, everybody knows his bag. And he really hasn't adjusted it in 10 years. So everybody kind of knows what he's got coming. But like just this season, have you looked at RJ Harvey's numbers for this year for UCF? It's insane. The running back had 1,577 yards, 6.8 per tote, and 22 touchdowns on the ground. I
like that for Florida State because this is a team that should have been able to run the football, and they absolutely could not. Do you think that's his top priority coming into Florida State is we have to remind ourselves how to run the ball?
Well, to that end, yes, but their offensive line, when I say the following, I mean it. Because of how many players they're losing and how poorly they recruited high school kids at the offensive line position, I know you're sitting down, and I hope for those listening are as well. Please don't wreck your car if you're listening to this on download. They might have a worse offensive line next year.
Whoa.
I can explain why if you like, but I don't want
I would love to know why, because how on earth could it be worse than that?
All right. For those of you that your insurance is about to go up, note that Spencer asked for this. Their sixth-year senior center who regressed is gone. Their sixth-year senior left tackle who horrifically regressed is gone. They're going to lose one or two other offensive linemen. And out of the high school ranks, there's only one kid that's a freshman, sophomore, or junior that has showed any promise. Jalen early got banged up towards the end of the year. He's a kid from Texas, pretty good player. But Andre Otto is another kid. He wasn't ready. He was a redshirt freshman this year. He looked really poor. Lucas Simmons as a kid was highly rated. Didn't get a play. Like they didn't use him, even though they were horrible this year. What does that say? And what's the weakest position in the portal, Spencer? What position doesn't enter in the
left
portal?
Tackle,
right guard, center.
I think it's offensive line and tight end. You cannot build those positions through the transfer portal. Because think about Deion Sanders at Colorado, right? When you think portal, you think about him because of what he's done the last couple of years. They have dramatically improved their defensive line.
Oh, yeah, by a mile.
Right? They brought in, you can do that. But offensive line, I don't think there's a team in the country, Brian, that can say we have a premier offensive line and we just threw it together this year. We went and grabbed the ingredients at the store and we mixed it together. Like, that's a position that you can't microwave.
Years.
Yeah, you can't microwave. It's got to marinate a little bit. You got to use the crock pot.
Yeah, I agree. To that point, UCF this year, they ran the ball well, but they gave up over 20 sacks. And it's the Big 12. It's not the Southeastern. You know what I mean? Like, and they have to use the portal some.
The Southeastern Conference? You mean the Atlantic Coast Conference?
Well, no. Like any of them. Like the Big 12.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought you were having a little Freudian slip there about where you think Florida State's going to wind up.
Oh, no.
Conference-wise.
I have no clue what's going to happen with that. I've given up on worrying about that because that's just a disaster with the court system. That may take years. I want no part of that conversation.
It very well could.
But as it relates to these offensive lines, you're right. And again, who's going to start for Florida State? Who's even going to be the first back? Like, I don't know if they can put together a lineup for spring practice. It's that bad. I'm not exaggerating. And Mike Norvell is on the hot seat. Who wants to go there? Like, if you're on the fringe for going to the NFL, okay, I'm going to come back for a fifth-year transfer somewhere. Are you going to go attach your wagon to a guy that's on the hottest of hot seats after a 2-10 season? It's going to be rough.
So that then begs the question, why would Gus Malzahn take a demotion in title, head coach to offensive coordinator, and go to this particular spot?
Well, he likes challenges, for one. He took Arkansas State. He's been at Tulsa, etc. He's not afraid. I'll give him that. And he took UCF. A lot of people thought he was nuts there, too, and they improved as a program, but at the end, they got sour again. The deal with him, though, is he's got a connection to Norvell. The culture, like where he's from, he's still got a house in Alabama. He fits North Florida very well, and I think he's going to get the keys to it. I could be wrong, but that with my gut, and I have no information on this, I have a feeling things weren't too hunky-dory between him, boosters, NIL, and people because of the season this year, and he's just like, I mean, he's got more money than he can spend, so it's not about cash. He just wants to go somewhere and just be left alone. By being the coordinator, you're not dealing with the NIL very much. You're not dealing with the media. Gus is probably done with that stuff. It's kind of like Saban and some of these other guys. A lot of the older guys don't want to deal with this stuff. And I know Gus very well from the time I covered UCF. He's as A to B as it gets. Honest as the day is long. I can tell you right now, you won't meet a nicer guy. But at the same time, he just wants to coach.
Does he get Florida State back to being at least a team that can make a bowl game next year, or do you legitimately see this as another 2 to 3 years before Florida State can be relevant again?
If the O-line doesn't improve, I don't think they can. I think 6 wins is the top end because of the O-line. Like, there's just aren't enough guys, like we just discussed, Spencer. Who's going to come? I mean, I'm not kidding because I study this every day. The in-house O-line situation is iffy at best, and I'm being kind. How many guys are you going to get? Because let's be honest, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, everybody, if there's a good O-lineman, even if they have guys, they'll try to get them just to keep them away from their rivals. And Florida State's NIL is not the same as Bama's, Tennessee's, Miami's, etc. So these are not good combinations. Prove me wrong, but I think they're not going to go to a bowl game next year if I had to pick because of the O-line. Now, they'll improve in other areas, I have no doubt. And I think Norvell needed to give up the play calling, which I expect Gus to do. I think Luke Kromenhoek will be the quarterback next year. They could go to the portal, but I think Luke will be the quarterback. He's somewhat similar to Jarrett Stidham. I'm just saying he's just talented, but Stidham was a guy that Auburn had that transferred in. Gus did a good job with him. He threw for over 3,000 yards in 2017. You could look at it from that perspective. He only ran for about 150 yards, but the O-line in 2017 for Auburn were a bunch of animals. They ran over people in play action and RPO for them. Oh my goodness. It was insane. Florida State gave up 8 sacks and 14 tackles for loss against a so-so Florida defense on Saturday. How do you think that's going to go?
Not well.
Next year.
Not. It can't be worse. Can't look at it that way. Can't. I guess we're gonna find out. We'll find out we'll find out if that will end up being worse. Brian Smith, Locked On Seminoles. Check him out on YouTube wherever you get your podcast. Brian, thanks for the time.
Thank you, sir.